1173 officially confirmed amongst other bangers, fight nights 33 and 34. We've got big fight news and instant reaction coming up next on Fighting with Friends. Welcome back to Fighting with Friends and still the Undisputed African Fighting Podcast champion of the world. With me today, ladies and gentlemen, Randy defending Undisputed big champion of the world, chief analyst, of course, Brother Gaia.
What's up, everybody? What's up, baby?
What's up, PG? What's up? Also with us, ladies, today is the baddest man on the planet. You might know him as George Jefferson, and I mean, the Jedi Knight. It's Jedi Knight.
You're right here.
Right here.
What's up, boys? What's up, Jedi Knight? Glad to have you back, bruh. Still the baddest man on the planet.
It's been busy, bro. I'm happy to at least spend a few minutes with the lads here talking about Scoop and Donut. So yeah, it's gonna be liquor.
So we're about here. So like and subscribe there for the Scoop and Donut, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna jump into our first story. It is 1173 officially confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. Officially confirmed.
Let's go.
Get another one of those horns off. Yeah. Okay, 1173 officially confirmed. This is for the 16th of November at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo. So we're super hyped for that. And yeah, we do have some. We don't have any official fights out yet because the card is only in November. But we do have kind of a rough breakdown of what was some of the most highly requested fan of fights. And this comes from our boy, of course, in the streets or on X, Tetsuya. And this was the list he came up with. So I'm just going to see if I can zoom in a little bit here and we can take it from the top. Oh, yeah. Let's just have a look at the whole thing and we can talk about
You can
it.
see it, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, BG, gonna go to you first, bro. Give us your thoughts here and your immediate reaction to 1173.
Look, obviously, these matchups are like if it was a dream card, right? I mean, firstly, there's a lot of fights there, and I don't think that can be the entire fight card. You have to take some of those fights away, depending on how much fights will be on the card in total, right? I think it'll probably only be like a 12-fight card instead of all of this that we've seen on screen right now. But if you look at some of those matchups there, those are perfect matchups, right? Some of them are a bit questionable for me in terms of like where the status is right now of some of those athletes. But like, let's start from the top with Takedo and Ratang number 2. A part of me wants to see that, but there's also a very big part of me that doesn't really want to see it, just because Ratang is onto bigger things. If you think about who he can fight next, I don't think Takedo does anything different for Ratang's career, considering that you won the fight in such a short succession. The only thing that will make me go, okay, give the fight another go is because Takedo came into that fight with the cracked sternum and he wasn't really in any fight condition for that fight. So I would say run it back. But I don't know. I would probably love to see Ratang go up against someone else like Nong O, for example, and let him get a title fight rather than fighting Takedo. That wouldn't really be a title fight. It'll just be another super fight, right? For the Japanese fans, but it wouldn't really progress the flyweight kickboxing sort of rankings.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do anything for it. So I would rather have Ratang fight against Nongo instead, and then Takedo. If you really want to put Takedo on the fight card for the Japanese hopeful, give him someone else. Give him Taiki Naito, who would literally called him out, and I think that would actually would sell for the Japanese hopeful. But let's see what they do with that one. I'm not too sure. I'm still a bit like, I don't know. I'm not too keen on that fight, to be honest. But the Masaki no Iri, I think that is legitimately going to be the main event for that fight card. I think that's set in stone already. That's going to be the main event. Tawan Chayvik against Ryu.
The Superbon
Superbon.
and that's a banger, bro. That's a good fight.
I think that fight is already in the books. It's just a matter of signing contracts now.
Sorry, just before you continue going down the card here, I just want to kind of preface here that I think this card is very much geared towards, like, Japan versus Thailand. That's kind of how this is kind of old, because that's how the last one was 1172.
Yeah.
So it's kind of following a similar pattern here. But yeah, back to you, BG.
Which is a good thing that they should be doing in terms of which market to capitalizing. I think it's a brilliant idea for them to go that way. And also, before I continue on the list of fights, one thing that they have to get right this time is not have the the stream crash and everyone's tickets are not all null and void, and you have to pay everybody out again. That's what happened when they did the other pay per view event in Japan last year at the Saitama Arena at 1172. Remember that fight got bombed out, and then everyone's
Yeah.
streams crashed online, and they had to literally pay everybody out and made the event free on
Yeah, yeah,
YouTube.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
let's hope that that doesn't happen again for this event. But anyway,
Everyone,
I'm not too
yeah.
I'm not too familiar with the
Everyone's trying to get paid.
everyone's trying to get paid. I'm not too familiar with the opponent for Tawan Chai, Rukia Anpo. I haven't seen that fighter just yet, so I'm not too sure about it. But I'm sure if it's going to be put matched up against Tawan Chai, it's obviously going to be a fantastic fighter, right? Yuki Yoza and Jonathan Agadi is dependent on what Yuki Yoza and Jonathan Agadi do in their next fights because they're not going to be. I don't think this fight between Yuki Yoza and Jonathan Agadi is going to happen on this pay per view card unless they both are successful in the next matchups, right? So I think Jonathan Agadi might be getting Nabila Nan in his next fight, and Yuki Yoza might be getting Wei Rui in his next fight. So depending on what they do in that fight, if they both win, then it's highly likely that we're going to see Yuki Yoza versus Jonathan Agadi in November 16th in Japan.
Why
Um,
would I get fighting, man?
because they're in the same division. And what's her name? Jonathan Agadi is ranked number 2 in the bantamweight Muay Thai rankings.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Agadi is also the bantamweight champion in the
Yeah, that's
kickboxing.
why I was like, give me the champ. Yeah.
But he fights both disciplines at the same time.
Oh,
He's
okay.
ranked in the top 2 in both disciplines. That's kickboxing. So what's the Muay Thai rankings for bantamweight? See that he's ranked number 2. And Superlik is not gonna fight. He's not fight. Superlik announced that he's not gonna fight Nabil when he comes back. So that means
Mm.
Nabil doesn't have an opponent,
Yeah,
and he's
let's see.
trained
I get the in a film over born. They
exactly.
have
And they
to do
both
it.
are in fight camp at the moment. They both announced that they're in
They
fight camp.
have
So
to do
who are they fighting? It's gonna be the two of them against each other.
it. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
they have
So I
to
think
do it.
that fight. So the Yuki Yosa and Jonathan Agadi fight will only happen depending on what both those athletes do in their next fights, because they both have different opponents at the moment.
Mm.
Let's go back to
Also,
that.
what
I'm
you
just
saying
looking at this
is
Rukia Anpoman, bro. He looks pretty intense.
Is
Um,
who?
it
yeah, he's I'm just not. This is his
Unpo.
topology page. Yeah.
Anpo? Yeah,
Mm.
You see this one at a Manny
a
Pacquiao, bro.
boxing fight.
A boxing fight with Manny Pacquiao. There's a loss to Masaki Noiri.
Ooh. Okay,
I
so he's
think
been in there.
he beat Kaito Ono. No, he lost to Kaito Ono also.
He lost to Kaito. Oh, kak mad.
Yeah, so he's been around. He's stood in
Okay,
there with some of the best of them for sure. So yeah,
okay.
definitely put some respect on my
That would
guy's
be a
name
good
there.
fight. Obviously,
No
you
way.
are Wakematsu is the champion at the moment in the fly. Is it flyweight MMA? He's the current champion there, and I think Reese McLaren would be a good opponent for him, considering that they haven't fought before, and that would actually be a very good fight for Yua Wakamatsu. And also, Reese McLaren has announced that he would like to leave one championship if he didn't really get a fight because he's been out for quite some time, and not because he's injured, just because they weren't giving him anyone to fight against. So he made a statement of saying, "Listen, give me someone to fight, or I'm leaving, bro." So if that fight does happen, I would be quite happy about it. Now, yeah, the fight between Hiroki Akamoto and Superlek, I feel like that might be the most realistic fight for Superlek because it'll be a tune-up fight for Superlek. Granted, it's a bit of a tough opponent in Akimoto. He's ranked in the kickboxing flyweight, kickboxing bantamweight. Excuse me. It would be a good comeback fight for Superlek, considering that it's still a ranked opponent, not someone that's completely outside of the ranking. So it doesn't really look like it's that much of a tune-up fight. Well, I do
Mm.
think it's going to be a tune-up fight for Superlek, by the way. I think he would walk through Akimoto. But I think that would be the realistic matchup for Super League. Ayaka Miura versus Stamp. I'm not too sure about that one because Stamp is injured again. And I think Ayaka Miura is deserving of a title shot. So I think Ayaka Miura should actually get Nisambawanga for the title instead of getting Stamp. But if they make this fight happen, I wouldn't be upset about it. But I think Ayaka Miura deserves a title shot. And Stamp even said that as well. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. You see?
yeah.
There you see the good at rankings. Ayaka Miura should be fighting against Denise. And then Naraka Yoshinari is fighting in 2 weeks' time against One Friday Fights 114. He's the opening fight on that fight card. I think if he gets through that fight, which I think he's going to, then I would definitely think that Song Chun Wei versus Naraka Yoshinari for the title, for the Atomweight title, perfect. Boom. massive fight, obviously. Kaito versus Marat Grigorian was supposed to happen in Japan before. It was supposed to happen last year. It didn't. I don't know if Kaito is worthy of fighting against Marat Grigorian just yet. If I'm being
Get
honest.
Sarani in there, man.
Get Sarani in there rather. He beat Kaito, right?
Yeah.
But because they're fighting in Japan, they probably will make that fight even happen.
Mm.
And I'm sure Marat Grigorian will be like, easy money. Let's take it. Payday will be easy for him on that day. Not too sure about who Koki or Saki is, but JDB needs a fight. And if JDB gets that fight, there you go. You know what I mean? That will be a good one for him.
That would
But
be a
you see,
title fight as well. Strawweight
yes,
kickboxing.
would it be a title fight or
Because
would it
he's
be
the
an
interim
interim?
champ, and yeah.
Yes,
Because
yes,
I
yes,
mean,
you're
it
right.
doesn't look like Prajan Chai is gonna be defending or trying to unify those belts anytime soon, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
So
He's
it's
fighting
likely
Muay.
gonna still be for the interim title there.
That's true. We yeah. We could also that fight that's below that one between the UC versus JLCI. That would
That's
also most
massive.
likely be that's a massive fight. That would also probably be on that fight card, but it would most likely be kickboxing rules, not Muay Thai rules though. That's
Mm.
the only earth. Shimon Yoshinari versus Kongtorani is mad. Mad. That will be a mad fight. I would pay for that 100%, and I'm not too sure if they will do that, depending on what they do, because the matchups above it will fold the card already. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It
yeah.
already fold the card. Um, Kaina versus Christina Morales is probably going to be Kaina's next fight. Kaina's next fight. I think that's going to be realistic. Just not sure if that's going to be on this particular fight card. I don't know about that, but that is most likely going to be that matchup for those two fighters. That will be their opponents. So I think that will happen. I see they put Taiki Naito versus Nongo. I don't buy it. I don't think that's fair. Taiki Naito versus Takeru. Nongo versus versus Rotang. That's the only fight to make. Nongo has done the most to get to that title contention. He's going to be 39 years old next. So, like, give him a title shot now before it's too late. Before he's done and you don't really get any more fights out of him.
Mm.
And then you versus Ilyas Mahmoudi. I think I'm all in on that fight as well, just because both guys are ranked in the top 5 of that flyweight kickboxing. So I would say actually make that fight happen. That's genuine. That fight should actually happen. And then Yuki Kashihara versus Suryan Lek. I'm not too familiar with Yuki, but Suryan Lek seems to be on all pay-per-view cards for some reason. And if that's the case, that's probably also going to be the matchup there. But that's my thoughts on
Jedi,
those fights.
With the
give
light
thanks, Niji.
skin.
Give thanks, Jedi. You're loving in the dark there, my bro. Bro.
There's the lights. There's the lights.
Yes, yeah. Private jet numbers.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. here.
But yeah, Jedi, any thoughts here on these fights, bro?
Yeah,
What's
no,
standing out to you
I think a lot of them are very good. Obviously, as Ross says, not all of them are going to make it to the card. Um, but just touching on the top half of it, I think the Takeru and Rotang fight would be nice for fans, but as Ross says, it doesn't make any sense for the division. So it's like I don't know what they're gonna do. They're gonna have to pay Rotang
Yeah,
a lot of money
he's
to
already
take that fight.
talking on X about big fights, bro. He wants big paychecks.
Like
Man got
Yeah.
Lamborghinis to pay off and shit.
yeah. So I don't think
Um,
that's gonna happen. I think the main event is gonna be the fight below that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think everyone's amped for that. But um, as Ross was saying, some of these fights or some of these odds are fighting before that, and it might not play out. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, but the one that excites me the most would be the Yoki Yoza and Jonathan Haggerty. I think would be a
same,
gas fight.
same,
I
same.
think that's a fight to make for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's also the fight out that stood out the most for me there,
Yeah.
or the one
Yeah.
that I would be
yeah,
Banger.
most excited to watch.
yeah,
Um,
and then the Nori and Superbond, bruh, for the main event. That's like for me. That's my main event and co-main event for that card. Make it happen, guys. Please, one championship.
People's main
Get
event,
up
yeah.
tickets and everything, bruh.
Yeah, just to the point there about Takeda and Rotang, I know obviously it doesn't really do anything for any division here, but I think these guys are at a point now where they're really just looking for these super fights, bro. Where,
Mm.
like,
Mm.
the
Yeah,
title is the respect in the streets type of vibe.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they're not
It
really
looks
too
like
concerned about what the division looks like because they kind of like in that twilight where they're just trying to like
Yes.
get put on the best fights and kind of maximize
Mm.
their revenue stream and try to bring as many
Very
eyeballs
true. Very
as possible.
true. Yeah.
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 I agree.
That would make, as a fighter, it would make the most sense also, right?
Yeah.
To, like in this day and age now, is to take the fights that's going to pay you the most money, bro.
Mm.
Yep.
Instead of, staying in a division trying to hunt down the title. But yeah.
Unless you're young, like you're still like early 20s, then chase the title. But once you reach that, for me, when you reach 28 onwards, you really need to go like you need to go for the best possible opponent. And I don't mean like the easy way to the next. I mean like the bro that's gonna make you sweat. Your palms are gonna be sweating when you want to
Yeah.
fight this bro. You know,
Yeah.
look for the biggest and best fights.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or you
Yeah,
can
fair
go to
point.
Street Beats, bro, and become a champion there.
Or you can go to
Or you
Street
can
Piece and
go
become
fight in the Hangman Dan Hooker's
Oh
backyard for
snap!
50,000.
let's go.
You know what I mean? You can go and beat up all those guys since they all like amateurs and
Yeah,
semi-professional guys,
But
uncles and
what
dads.
but what do you win there, bruh? Just a hamper, the yellow cheeses and what, like
50K,
snacks,
bro.
mini cheddars and
50K.
cake.
Man.
you win Dan Hooker
Nah,
merch.
the yellow
Yeah,
Dan Hooker
didn't
t-shirts.
they get 50K?
Nah. Was it for
Didn't they?
50K? Or was it
Yeah,
50K.
150K? I mean that's
No,
like
it
a
was
million rand,
50,000.
bruh.
exactly, bro. Just 50K. They
Why
said
did
it
it
in the
we should
beginning
have
of the
gone,
thing.
bruh? We should have gone. Could have fucked him on 3-on-1. But anyway, guys,
Bro,
we're getting a bit
50K.
off topic here.
Yeah.
Are there are there any other fights here that you would that are standing out? I mean, BG, you did a pretty good job running through the card for us there.
Yeah,
But yeah, any other thoughts here, boys?
Just that this really is like some of these, if half of these matchups are what they are, and it will most likely happen, dude. Then this fight card is gonna be so insane just because of those type of matchups. I mean, Nadaka Yoshinari versus Song Chonoi. If you haven't watched their first fight card, watch their first fight, dude. It's some high level shit. And yeah, I think all these athletes here are just prime elite kind of strikers, and they make for good fights. Just a little bit. The only one that will kind of slow the fight card down would be the Ayaka Miura versus Stamp or versus Denise Ambawanga, but it will still be very high level because it will be the only MMA fight. Oh, and Yuki Wakamatsu. So that will obviously extend in terms of the 5 minute round fights. And
Mm.
MMA fights can be a little bit slower.
Yeah, I mean, Dream Card, absolute banger here. Definitely worth the pay per view. So, yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. 1173. Who would you like to see on the card? Let us know. But all right, then, boys, we'll keep it moving and we're going to go to One Fight Night 33, which
Shoo.
is taking place very soon, 24 days, 9 hours, and 42 seconds away.
Need
And
to
this
bring
is,
it
of
on
course,
screen.
coming from the
Oh, there
Lupini
you go.
Stadium in Bangkok, Thailand. Main event, Alicia Helen Rodriguez coming up against Yana Pearson. Um, Shadow versus Muhammad
Mhm.
Yunus Rabah. Uh, I don't know this presser.
There was
So,
a little bit of a shuffle. They're good fighters.
yeah. I've seen that Russian dude
Yeah, he's good.
already.
Ilya
Yeah,
Fremenov. Yeah, he's hard. Good fighter.
solid. He fights really tough. He's strong, bro.
So there was
okay,
a
so going
recent.
through. Sorry, yeah, brother guy, talk to me.
So we don't starting from the top. That's actually a new addition to the fight card. That fight literally got announced about 20 minutes ago. If I'm being honest, I only saw this fight card announcement when I was waiting to come onto the stream with the guys, and I was like, hey, what is this? This is a new post ever one championship. Ah, I announced the fight just today, and we get to see Lisa Rodriguez. She was supposed to fight at the fight night 31 card, I think.
Mm,
Remember, she was supposed to get Sher Cohen or 32 card, and then she didn't. Sher Cohen got injured. Now she's got Johanna Person. So Johanna Person is there's a lot of information on her just yet. I haven't found anything about it because, like I said, just got the information now. But when you go into one, you click on a name, they don't really give you that much information about it. It's actually nothing there about it at all. So for me, it's like, what's gonna happen here? But I'm very hyped to see Rodriguez fight. She's one of my favorite fighters to watch in one championship. And honestly, I think she beats everybody. I actually think she's gonna smoke Pearson quite easily, first round finish, and then she must call out Pejija and say, "Let's go." Let's go, Pachija. Let me get a kickboxing title from you, or we put the Muay Thai title
Put
on the
your
line.
clothes on now. I'm here in the ring. I'm waiting.
Yeah, let's go, bruh. I think she'll take Pachija out, if I'm being honest, and I would love to see that fight. I mean, they fight in the same division. The one's kickboxing, the other one's Muay Thai. Let them slug it out, bruh. Let them slug it out. At the moment, they're beating everybody. They're both untouchable. I would say let's give them that fight. I wouldn't have given her Johanna. But maybe that's just a tune-up fight, you know what I'm saying? And then if she wins here, which I think she's going to, she'll most likely get Pachija next. And she even
But wait,
she's been calling out for Pejija in the last three defenses. She's like, I want Pejija. Give me Pejija next. I'm like, yes, let's go, bruh. That's you. Um, Shadow versus Muhammad Yunus. That's a sick fight. I think not sure if that's a rematch, but that's gonna be a sick fight. That was the main event of this event of Fight Night 33, but now they're the co-main event. Ain't no shame in that. So I think that's also gonna be a banger. And like Jid was saying, the fight that will be taking place before that one is a featherweight MMA bout. I'm not too familiar with Pedro Dantas or Danta. I think it's Dantas. I'm not familiar with that dude, but I've seen Ilya Premenov fight before, and Ilya Premenov is no joke. He's a killer. He's a go getter. He's got great wrestling, great jiu-jitsu. He's got very good striking as well, and he's a top finisher. He's a very
Oh,
very much of a top finisher. I like the way he fights, and it's good to see him back. But I'll touch base on MMA when we get later into the episode, 'cause I've got my thoughts on MMA in general in one championship. Vladimir Kuzmin, yeah, because he hasn't fought so much in a while, it's like, yeah, where's this guy been? But he's also not too bad of a fighter. Good elbows, good elbow game. Stefan Kurodi, I think I've seen him fight once in the one championship. I can't remember what the performance was like. Let me just check what that last fight was like for Stefan. I think he lost his last fight. Oh, he won. He won. Kitsuku. Yeah, but he was on a two-fight losing streak before that. I think I watched those two fights. That's why I know the name. But Vladimir is good. He's a really good dude. He got good range in the bantamweight division. He's actually a bit big for the bantamweight division. So keen to see that fight. I have no idea who Isaac Mitchell and Francisco Lowe is, but okay, they're on the card. So I'm sure they got some kind of pedigree in the grappling world, and so that's probably why they're on a pay-per-view event for one championship. Chihiro Sawada, I've seen her fight before. She's not too bad at all. Very good striking, tough as nails, got good durability, but slow to finish fights, but she's got some good durability. And like I said, striking is what get the job done for a good pace. But she's taking someone in that's gonna really grapple the hell out of her in Macarena Aragon. She's got some really intense grappling. Not so good in the striking department. So it's just a matter of when she gets Chihiro down, that's gonna be the fight right there. Nontachai versus Abdullah Dayakaev. That's the new addition to this fight card, also announced just earlier today. Super excited for that one because Nontachai is on the streak at the moment. Good striker. He's taking on someone who we know is very deadly. He beat my guy Semapek Fetex in his last fight by knockout. So let's go, bruh. This is a fascinating fight, and I'm sure since it's featherweight and not bantamweight, Abdullah isn't struggling with that weight cut, right? So we get to see a very good Abdullah in this one. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I don't know anything about these two gentlemen, so I will
this is
reserve my
bad,
opinions for
bad.
them.
How mean these guys look. How mean these guys look, bro.
yo,
Yeah.
Shit.
yes, bruh.
It's bro. I'm telling you, bro. Are you nuts? You can come and what's it, bro? That Mongolian
Genghis
guy was
Khan.
killing like away
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan. No, bro, you
What is this
nuts.
man's trip, man, bro? Why
I
is he so
wouldn't fight this,
angry?
bro.
I thought he was
Yo.
Yakuza, bruh.
Look
Man
at
is
his eyes.
ice
Look at the
killing you.
eyebrows. Look at it, bro.
Damn.
Look at those eyebrows.
Shit.
Yo,
Anyway,
nuts.
Jedi, any thoughts
Hectic.
on this card?
Nah, I'm okay, thanks.
All right, then we'll keep it moving to Fight Night 34. Jetson, this is Ursel
Oh,
versus Jarvis on
oh,
Amazon Prime. Massive fight coming up here.
Yeah.
Finally, Reagan Ursel is fighting a new opponent. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Um,
Finally.
so yeah, excited for that. Jetson, give us your
yeah,
thoughts here. Reagan Ursel versus George Jarvis.
yeah. I didn't know who George Jarvis is, bro. I've never seen him fight before.
G-Unit
Um,
is good.
say again.
That's his name. His name is G-Unit. His nickname.
Oh shit, hectic.
Yeah. He's good.
But
He's
yeah,
good.
uh, maybe I
Yeah.
have seen him. I just don't remember the name, bro. Um, but yeah, still excited to see him fight someone else.
Yeah.
Um, I think he's he's obviously proven over the years that he is the goat in this Muay Thai kind of long range, I go, you go kind of fight, and I expect him to do it again against George Jarvis, bro. Who's this man, bro? And
He's
um,
new though. He only arrived last year, mid last year.
okay. So yeah, that's that, bruh. I think the fight below this in the MMA fight is gonna be a really high level grappling, uh,
Yeah.
explosive kind of fight. You can see
Mm.
somebody for sure is either gonna get tapped out or knocked out in this one.
Mm-hmm. Give thanks. Granite BG, talk to us here, main and co-main, bruh.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'll talk about the whole card if you need me to as well, because I'm excited about it. It'll be on 2nd of August. We will be doing a live. Stay tuned for that. But I'm amped for this fight card, dude, because I like to see Reagan Ursel fight. Again, one of my top fighters in the organization. Happy to see him fight in Muay Thai now, because he was doing kickboxing for quite some time. I think his last Muay Thai fight was against Aquaman, and he smoked Aquaman quite easily. So now he's got G Unit, and it's a new opponent. G Unit has been pulling out for Reagan Ursel since his induction into the One Championship, excuse me. And to correct myself, he didn't arrive last year, he arrived in 2023, but he was very active last year, more consistent than he was in his debut in 2023.
So,
Only fought one.
so who did you fight?
Where's his
George
record?
Jarvis, there you go. Muhsin Chafi, he beat Muhsin Chafi. Rang Rawi is going to be fighting, I think, this week's Friday fight card, if I'm not
Okay,
mistaken.
let's go.
That's a good fighter, by the way. He beat Ricardo Bravo, who was
Mm,
a former champion. Ricardo Bravo fought against our guy Ariane Esparza last week, or was a week before that.
yeah.
He
Shout out,
lost that.
shout out.
Mustafa Altakriti is a good fighter. He fought against Noiri. His leg got broken in that fight when he fought against Noiri, which set up Noiri's championship fight. So that means he's gone to some really top talent, right? Some really top guys in
Mm,
this division.
mm.
So unit is not bad, but the dude's got some talent. He's like
Yeah,
he's got that UK Muay Thai style, which are really good stuff. But I think Regan Ursel is just going to be way too talented, way too strong,
I
championship
think this
mentality.
Yakuza Bravo swallow them both, bro. Look at this man.
Yeah, the 80. So I think that's gonna be a very good fight, dude, and it's also gonna set up. It's gonna reignite that lightweight Muay Thai division that was a little bit
Yeah,
stagnant. That's what
yeah.
that's what it's gonna do. And then that co-main event. Always happy to see Gary Tonin back. And if there's anyone that will give Shamil Kasanov a challenge, it will be Gary Tonin. I don't think Gary Tonin has got the
It's gonna
same
be a good
hands
fight, yeah.
as Shamil. I think Shamil's hands is a little bit better. But Gary Tonin's grappling is something very frightening to witness. And I think once they get to the
It's gonna
grappling
be a good
exchanges,
fight, yeah. I think
yeah, it's
Tonan's
gonna
gonna
be.
tap. Yeah.
I also got the feeling that Tonin is so aggressive, bro. He's hella aggressive. And I think Shamil sometimes plays a bit too safe for me, man. If he can't get the finish, and he does very like a lot of the Russian wrestlers do, they have a very safe wrestling game where it's like, I'm not gonna give you up any
Yeah,
positions,
if
which
you
happens, it
the
stifles the game.
if
Okay?
you can't grapple like Rolotolo, if your surname is not Rolotolo, Tonan's gonna
Mhm.
fuck you up, bro.
Mm.
That's basically
True.
what it is, bro. If your surname is not Rolotolo and we're gonna grapple, Tonan's gonna tap you, bro.
Rolo Tolo.
I would do it, bro.
Uh,
You
that's
said
kind
if you said Rolotolo, Atisma, bro. Don't don't
yeah.
don't grapple this guy. Rather run away.
So now I'm seeing Gary Tonin's record. This is actually gonna be a rematch. They fought 2023,
Okay.
5th of July, and Gary Tonin tapped him out in the second round.
See, bro.
Tap shot.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeesh.
Your surname's not
you see,
Rolotolo. Don't do it, my bro.
you see there, Rotolo slapped him. Yeah, I watched that fight
This
as well.
man's
Ty
surname is
Rotolo.
named Rolo Tolo.
And Christian Tangli, but I mean that was like that flying knee or something, eh? What was that
Yeah,
knockout?
I
Yeah,
can't
flying
remember.
knee.
It was a flying knee, I think.
But
But
otherwise, you said him not Rolotolo. Give up, bro. This man's gonna beat you.
yeah, he's very good. Gary Tonin is scary. Look at his record there, AD. He's been smoking everybody.
Yeah,
He
and to
just
be fair, Martin Wynn was also like,
yeah.
pitchy over the hill when he fought this
Mm.
one.
When they fought each other, yes.
Yeah.
But look at Toden, he just submits everybody. One
When
TKO sub.
Martin is very strong, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
Martin
very
Yun is tough.
strong. But
Mm.
Tonen, bro, that man is clever, bro. Man's very
He
clever.
is.
He's skillful.
I think he's gonna beat Charmel again. But let's just go down the card, AD, because there's some other fights I want to quickly just run through. Ben Tannen is his return. He's been out for quite some time. Not too sure. He's taking on Kirill Drashenko, who
Oh,
was these are
scary
like top
guy.
heavyweight guys. Not gonna put too much stock into it, but I think
I love it.
it should be a good fight. Anna Jarunsuk Supergirl, the fight below that one. Anna Jarunsuk is Supergirl, so she's coming back. That's a return fight. So I'm quite excited to see that. There's Rangrawi I was talking about. So he's fighting on the next fight card against Yusuf Asuwik, who fought against Aquaman in his debut and won that fight. Remember, Eddie, we were like saying that's a bit of a robbery. Yeah, so that's that guy. I think this heavyweight fight between Kang Ji-woon and Hugo Takauchi, that's gonna
Yeah,
be a bomb burner of a
yeah.
heavyweight bout.
There's a
Looking
lot
forward
on
to
the line here, bro. There's like property and bonds and old debt and everything on the line here.
that. That's gonna be
Yeah.
a sick fight to watch. I'm pretty sure someone's going to eat there. And then the opening bout of that fight card is Jeremy Bakatu taking on Albeck. I think Albeck is debuting. Jeremy is ranked in the top 5 of that bantamweight MMA, so that's obviously going to be a good fight as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, good fight cards coming up for one championship. Definitely
Keep
looking forward
thanks,
to it.
keep thanks, BG. Okay, then let us know your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Fight night 33 and 34. What do you think about the card? Do you think there should be any other additions or what's the buzz? Let us know in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen there, BG, and let you transition us to our next story, please, sir.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You're gonna bounce, Jedi.
Yeah, I think I must go now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Shot Jedi.
Oh,
Keep
oh.
thanks.
champion right here.
Yeah.
So
Cheers,
pleasure.
guys. Thanks for having me. I think at some point the one championship has got to do like a tag team, and they also have to do cross gender, like a bra versus. Cool,
Pretty much
peace, guys.
2 brasa versus 1 lady.
That's a different show.
Freak show fights,
Cheers.
bro. But keep thanks, Jedi.
Cheers.
Next time, bro. Shot, bro.
Peace, guys.
Yeah, so
All right,
Jedi
BG.
always with the mad takes. Bring me up on screen there. Let's go.
Let's get
Okay,
back to
so
business here.
our next topic of discussion is quite interesting because it's something that we've been talking about since we started doing our podcasting on the One Championship. And one thing we were talking about a lot was the hydration tests and how do we get around this? How do you understand the hydration tests and like what's going on? And I think this next insert we're going to talk. This next insert is by Nick Atkin. Drop the link in the description. His guest this guy's name is Peter Miller, and he is the nutritionist and condition coach for a lot of the One Championship champions and some of the good fighters like Nabil Anand, for example, Haggerty. The list goes on. Rodtang, he helped Rodtang make that flyweight quite nice against Takeru. So yeah, so the question that was asked to him on this podcast was, what's up with the hydration tests? What's his take about the hydration test and why the fighters are not making the weight or failing hydration so much? So let's hear what he has to say, and then we can reflect on it.
That's supposed to say. Dick is asking, are other trainers trying to steal your secrets, Pete?
The way I look at the hydration thing, if you're educated in nutrition and sports science, doing the hydration test shouldn't be an issue for anyone. It's people who are trying to do it without kind of any background knowledge. That's when you have issues and you try and just like copycat things, which I've seen before and you've seen before yourself, where people have just come in and go, oh, I've just watched this. There's a video surfacing on YouTube and this is what you need to do, without really understanding the physiology of the body and water balance and the right things you need to do. But I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not cracking code. It's a relatively simple process, but I've just done it that many times. I know what I'm doing. I'm confident to know what to do.
Why do so many people fail hydration?
It's probably a couple of things where they haven't got the right advice. A lot, like, it's shocking how many fighters haven't got a nutritionist, like at the top level. Like these some people are fighting for world titles and they haven't even got a nutrition coach. It seems absolutely wild to me.
So that's firstly, I think, is a big problem, and I want to get your thoughts on that one quickly, Eddie, before I move on to the next one. What's your take on that? Why the championship fighters in one championship don't have nutritionists? Like,
That's a
what's your take
very
on that?
interesting question. I think it could possibly resolve around the pay. Revolve around the
Ah,
pay, excuse me, because I mean maybe they can't afford to have these luxuries of nutritionists. You still have to pay your whole camp, your coaches, your gym, all of those things after, and who knows how much money they're making. We know the bonuses,
mm,
350,000 baht, $50,000, whatever it might be, but we don't know what the actual purse is for a lot of these fighters. So
true.
I think it might be that, but it is
Mm,
very concerning that athletes of the highest level don't have nutritionists. So and it kind of does explain a lot as to why we've been having all of these issues with fighters losing belts on the scale,
yeah,
missing
yeah.
hydration, missing weight, all these things. And then he also mentioned a lack of knowledge around the subject. So yeah,
Mm,
these things, it makes a lot of sense because like you said, we've been talking about this since the beginning of our podcast.
yeah.
We're wondering how does this happen, why does this keep happening. So yeah, it's good to kind of get a little bit of clarification here.
Context,
But yeah,
yeah.
it is quite an issue then. If it is the pay, then that's definitely something they should look at, but we'll talk about finances a bit later, as I'm sure you're
Yeah.
aware, BG. Yeah.
Let's just keep it rolling. But I completely agree with you. I think it could be financial issues that could maybe lead to that. But let's just quickly roll the tip.
it comes to the case where they're winging this hydration and go, well, I've heard so and so told me to drink X amount of fluid, X amount of time before I do the weight cut, and they just wing it, and then it's not. Even though I said the hydration test is it's definitely a flawed test, not something I would recommend having in an organization. But it's relatively simple to pass if you know what you're doing. The problem is it's when you fail the first time, and if you've cut a decent amount of weight, it's very difficult to pass it again. So then what ends up happening is fighters are drinking fluid, they're going to pee again, they're failing, and they're drinking more fluid, and then you're messing up with your electrolyte balance and your fluid balance in the body. That's where it becomes dangerous. It's not particularly dangerous if you just do it right the first time. It's when you fail multiple times, you're going backwards and forwards, drinking fluid, cutting the weight, drinking fluid, cutting the weight. So it just seems wild to me that fighters don't have a nutritionist at that kind of level. Like,
Yeah, that's also what we've been noticing a lot is that let me close that there because that was that story. We're noticing a lot that when an athlete goes back, when they fail and they go back to do obviously now have more to do more liquids and then hydrate again. What happens when they come back is they actually increase their weight and they end up missing weight and the
Yeah.
hydration now. Now it's like, oh my word, what the how do you navigate this? So I like what he said there. It's like if you just hone in and get it right the first time, like do a decent weight cut, make sure that you are hydrating during your weight cut. You're most likely going to pass it the first time, and you wouldn't have to go and redo the test again. And then at which point you risk yourself of failing it consistently, and then ultimately just losing. Do you think that? That's my last question on that one. Do you think that because the athletes are so consistently moving between weight classes, or sometimes they're moving because you fight in two different disciplines, that could also maybe affect that ability to make that weight and hydration. Because Rodtang is fighting bantamweight and flyweight, and
Mm.
Super X fighting bantamweight and flyweight, and Agady, and they're doing it at the consistent level at championship fights. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Don't you think that that could affect them? I mean, they're all three of them are under 30 years old, right? All three of them are under 30. So like, I still
Yeah.
got this youthful body, but I mean, like, at some point, you're gonna have to be respectful of your body and go, like, let me just stick to one weight class.
Mm, mm.
What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see that affecting the weight cuts. And again, this is just issues that the UFC doesn't have, right? Because they don't have athletes
Hydration.
jumping back and forth between divisions. I mean, some of them go upper division now and then, but not as
Yeah.
consistently, like you mentioned, as these guys are doing it. But another point that I think is probably worth mentioning is also it surprises me that Chowdhury hasn't invested more money into getting these athletes, or maybe having a nutritionist for one championship or a team
Mm.
of nutritionists that kind of can try and negate these weight
Yeah.
loss or weight missing discrepancies that we've been experiencing. Because at the end of the
Mm.
day, like I've said in previous episodes, this is bad for their product. and it's bad for the image of one championship. And yeah, so it
Yeah.
surprises me that he hasn't taken more action as a leader and
Mm,
as kind of the CEO of the company to kind of try and negate the situation.
true.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much my thoughts on the
Because
matter
you,
there.
cause you, I agree with you there. Because you could add to it as in the UFC, for example, the onus is kind of on the athletes and the camp where the athletes come from to help them with nutritionists. But what UFC has taken further is like, here's the UFC PI. So you actually have
Exactly.
no excuse of missing weight because we are actually giving you an institution that's literally going to help you stay in shape and you're going to make weight all the time and no one's getting sick here. You know what I mean? So one
Yeah.
championship could take a page to that book and say, if you're not going to get your if the gyms are not going to get their athletes nutritionists maybe because of financial, implications, then one championship could start an institution of their own, like a PI of their own, for athletes to come and
Mm.
train there and not even do a full camp there, but just come and do like make sure that your nutrition is on point. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? One
exactly.
championship's got in-house nutritionists that can sort you out as well, like the UFC does. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would be that would be a very good investment in terms of like the money won't be wasted on something like that. It will maintain a
Mm.
high standard of fighting, a high standard of
Exactly.
championship fights as well.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more there, BG. That's it, the nail right on the head there, I think.
Okay, let's pull my screen onto the big screen so we can go through our last topic. Okay, this one caught my eye a little bit earlier today, and I thought it was quite interesting. So, for those who don't know, RSW stands for Rajamdan Earn World Series. So that's the other high-level Muay Thai event that takes place in Thailand, strictly in Thailand only. It doesn't go anywhere else. Even though they attract a lot of international fighters to compete in that tournaments, they actually have a card on this week that looks completely stacked in terms of the amount of fights that they have in there. But it's not like one championship. Sometimes they have a lot of big gloves going on there. But anyway, on screen is the revenue from both one championship as well as Latam Earn RWS finances. And as you can see on screen, since 2019 all the way to 2023, one championship hasn't really made that good amount of money. The revenue hasn't really spiked in any way, shape, or form if you compare it to what Latam Earn is doing, right? And if you look there, the blue one on one championship that has gone up, that was since the induction of One Friday fights. So prior to that, the years before that, there were no One Friday fight events. When they introduced the One Friday fight events, it did kind of bring them back, but there's still quite a massive loss if you look at it, look at the net profit loss. I looked at the comments and I saw some of the conversations around like what the buzz is here. And the two, I said something quite interesting. Um, uh, about what it is that makes the difference between the two organizations. And RSW pay is lower while they make much more in ticket sales. Um, so that they're making over 1 million baht per ticket sale every day. Every day. What the hell is that all about, bro? Not every day. You know what I mean? So they've obviously got a business model that's working for them, where they're able to really like make a good amount of cash and never really go into any sort of negative state in the business. Granted that
Mm.
the global stage for Rajam Dana isn't as global as one championship, right? It doesn't. Let's put it this way: it isn't being spoken about as much as one championship is, even though one championship isn't making as much money as RWS. So I don't know what your thoughts is on this one, Eddie. Before I move on to Tetsuya's thoughts about what needs to actually happen for one championship.
Yeah, look, I think and I'm speculating here, but I think that I don't think there's such a big kind of MMA following. Well, if you compare it to the Muay Thai following in Thailand, and RWS is a strictly Muay Thai organization. So I
Mm,
think naturally, just because of the demographic that you have in Thailand, they got a lot more pull because some of the oaks don't want to see the wrestling and all of that,
I
bro. Because
don't.
Muay Thai is part of the culture, bro. They want to see
Yes.
striking, they want to see fights, they want it's like fist
Yes.
fights and exciting striking fights. So I think it might be the interdisciplinary aspect of it, even kickboxing. You
Mm,
know what I mean? Maybe
mm,
that doesn't
mm,
resonate as much with Thai fans because they want to see Muay
yeah.
Thai, bro. Again, it's part of the culture. So I
Yeah.
think RWS kind of specializing in Muay Thai is definitely something that is working in their favor.
Mm,
But of course, as a fan, as a combat sports fan, I wouldn't want one championship to just purely go into Muay Thai. I'd still watch it if they did, But
Mm.
I do enjoy the interdisciplinary nature of the
Me too.
organization. But I think it might be affecting their bottom line at the end of the day.
I think it is as well. Another thing to add to RWS, you're right in saying that they're purely focusing on Muay Thai, and that's the all forms of Muay Thai. So it's small ounces. They got the big ounce gloves, and they're doing the no gloves at all, and just the wraps.
Mm,
That's what they mainly run in their organization. Actually, no, I don't think they do small ounces. They only do the 12-ounce Muay Thai, which is their Thai boxing Muay Thai, and then they do the no glove. That's their Muay Thai Muay Thai. One Championship is the first to do the Muay Thai in 4-ounce gloves. That's why it's like popping off. That was like what really made them pop off. But let's quickly look at Tetsuya. Both of these posts are provided by Tetsuya. But let's look at Tetsuya's idea and thoughts of what could be a good way to make One Championship more profitable. I'll quickly read it out, even though you can see it on screen. One, cut MMA and submission grappling and release all related fighters. I remember having a conversation with Tetsuya earlier in the year, and he or they were saying that the MMA fighters are actually the highest paid athletes in One Championship. They get paid more than anyone. That's why we don't see so much of their fights, because they're actually expensive for One Championship. Like that, and it makes sense. You and I spoke about this a while back, actually. I think it wasn't. I'm not sure if we spoke about it in person or we spoke about it on stream, but we did have the conversation about why we don't see so many MMA fighters, because of them actually costing so much. So we only really see them fight on the fight night cards. They don't even fight on pay-per-view cards. That's usually kickboxing and Muay Thai. But we see them on fight night cards, right? Which is a level below their pay-per-view cards. Introduce a monthly subscription for Friday fights at a reasonable price, around $5 to $10. So like you pay for the stream now, essentially. It's not going to be free anymore.
I mean,
Organized,
remember, it's only free in certain regions, right?
yes, which is the problem, because in the regions like Europe, for example, where there is money to be able to pay for something so cheaply, they can't.
Yeah,
They,
yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? So that needs to change. Organize quarterly big events at large venues such as Impact Arena, Ariake Arena, Saitama Arena, and make them pay-per-views. I mean, but they're already doing that, by the way. They're doing about 2 pay-per-views a year at the moment.
I guess he's just asking for more. So four
Yes,
pay-per-views, 4 big pay-per-views a year.
like one
So
per quarter
double.
would be mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Focus on the Thai and Japanese markets by holding weekly events in Thailand and consistently host 2 to 3 major events per year in Japan to build a strong local fan base, which they are currently doing, and it's actually working in their favor. Um, and then once this is a strong foundation established, expand to the European target in the UK and France, which they are technically doing already. They bring a lot of UK and French athletes into the organization, which you see on Friday Fights cards, to capitalize on that striking talent in those regions. I honestly, Eddie, I actually agree with this. I think that's a good strategy to deploy to actually reclaim or get more, increase the revenue for the company. I don't know if you agree on that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think these are fantastic ideas. I mean, look, as again, just to kind of reiterate what I said earlier, as a fight fan, I don't want to see these other disciplines removed from One Championship. But if it's gonna come down to it, where they're not going to be profitable if they are going to
Mm,
keep these disciplines around, then you got to do what you got to do. I'll still support the organization because I really think they are an
yeah,
organization who care about their fans. They try and put on good shows. So yeah, just fair play to One Championship once again. So yeah,
yeah.
short version of it. I don't want to see the disciplines get cut, but if they do need
Mm,
to, so be it. But
yeah.
yeah, I do think those are some fantastic suggestions there by
Suggestions.
Tetsuya. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I actually wouldn't want to see all of it go. Would be okay if they let go of the MMA guys, because they are the most expensive. When the One Championship decided to let go of Ben Askren and get Mighty Mouse, that was like their big charge to really inject MMA into their organization. And that's why they were seeing a lot of US cards, right? But when they were doing the US cards, they weren't headlined by MMA guys, they were headlined by Muay Thai and kickboxers. So
Mm,
that's why the US crowd was like, the US fan base wasn't really invested anymore, and that's why they were trying to make Stamp do it, Stamp, because she's a three sport champion, right? Muay Thai, kickboxing, and MMA. But I mean, she was injured, so they couldn't really ride the wave anymore with MMA. So that's why that's why they're predominantly doing the Japanese cards at the moment. So I think that maybe just release the MMA guys. Personally, I think that would be a good idea, because there are MMA fighters that aren't fighting, that are so talented, You know what I mean? Like Fabricio
Mm.
Andrade, for example. I would love to see him in the UFC. You would be
Absolutely.
Akbar Abdullayev, that no look punches and no look takedowns and
Yeah.
making people look like. Imagine him in the UFC, bro. Are you mad? You know what I mean? There are athletes in the one championship in MMA that aren't competing because they can't put fights together for them. That's a waste of money and a waste of talent for me. So I think let them go. Keep the kickboxing, keep the Muay Thai, keep the submission grappling. Start with that. Focus on that over the next year or so, and then eventually you can bring back the MMA guys when the revenue makes sense. And at the moment, it's just not working, and you're not seeing enough fights, and that's obviously because of finances, and it's making it a little bit difficult for them to secure cards, and that's probably why their revenue looks the way it looks. But I do believe that the 4 ounce Muay Thai is a very good strategy to actually make it a global stage because no one else is doing it, and that's brilliant. But I think it works.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm just a bit concerned about the submission grappling because I think again RWS are making the money they're making because of ticket sales, and that comes from local fans. I think they'd be more inclined to watch an MMA fight than a submission grappling fight. But just that's one thing. And then the other point is that I think we need to reconsider the format of submission grappling because I think we spoke about this also before that it's just one like 10-minute
Oh
round
yes, yes,
and then
yes,
it's
yes, yes,
over.
yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So they need
yeah.
to maybe add another 5-minute round at the end, some kind of sudden death kind. Well,
I like
find
that.
a way to make it to get people more invested in it. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Because now it's just 10 minutes of rolling and then it's done. You know
yes,
what I
and
mean?
and
So
a lot of those fights can end in like stagnant fights where they're just locked in the position and no one's really giving
especially
up.
the higher level ones, the ones that you want to see go for longer. You
Yes,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Those are usually the ones that get stalemated and then we get stuck and then it's
facts.
just like, somebody wins a boring decision where they were just kind of
Mm,
like locked in positions. So yeah, that's
true.
that's another thing. But yeah, for me it just comes down to the demographic, and you have to give the people in the country what they want because they are buying the tickets. So yeah, we
True.
might have to
True.
consider that MMA and possibly submission grappling, possibly even kickboxing. But probably not as likely kickboxing, but
Mm,
maybe depending on. I mean, again, I'm just kind of speculating about the demographic and how they feel in Thailand.
yeah.
So yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Our Thai subscribers, give us your thoughts here. You guys are in a much better position to talk about these things than we are. We purely speculating
Yeah.
here. So let us know in the comments. Back to you, BG.
Yeah, just to conclude off there, I think they shouldn't get rid of their striking disciplines. To be honest, I think they should keep that, considering that outside of one championship, but still in Thailand, they still do fights where they're fighting in the 12 ounce gloves, but Muay Thai. So they're throwing elbows and stuff, but it's just bigger gloves. And for that nature, if you want to get rid of kickboxing, then make Muay Thai 12 ounce, 6 ounce, 8 ounce, 12 ounce, 4 ounce. Make the Muay Thai game in all those different gloves. But
Mm,
personally, I think what they're doing right now is fine. Just maybe one of the two grappling disciplines is going to have to get cut for the sake of reigniting that revenue again. Because if they are the most expensive athletes on the fight card, and they are the most least competitive fighters in terms of how many times they get to fight, personally, I feel like there's money being wasted there, and that needs to be readdressed.
yeah, that sounds like bad business in any kind of business. But yeah, thank you very much, PG. Do you have any final thoughts on that before we wrap it up? We are approaching 1 hour, so yeah, we gotta get out of here, bro.
We gotta get out of here. No, just super excited for what's to come for the combat sports world, but also for our channel as well. I don't want to drop too many news, but I'm just super, super hyped about what's to come. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Keep supporting, keep subscribing, keep liking, and you're gonna see some big changes.
There you go. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned indeed. But yeah, if you have made it this far, thank you once again very much for watching. Drop us a comment, drop a like, all those good things. Watch the podcast every day. Joe Rogan. For myself, PG, Brother Babu, Jedi Knight, all of us here at Fighting with Friends. Thank you so much once again for watching. Have a fantastic week and be sure to catch us tomorrow for the UFC
Yep, yep.
Jamal versus Khalil round 2 preview. See you later, folks. Have a good one. Bye bye.